All right, the Farouk El-Baz Award is the next award. The Farouk El-Baz Research Award was established in 1999. The award is given annually for outstanding work in the field of warm desert research by an earth scientist. It is intended to encourage and reward arid land studies. The 2025 recipient of the Farouk El-Baz Award is Stephen Tooth from Aberystwyth University, Wales. I probably biffed that. The citationist is Gerald Nanson. Gerald was unable to be here, so the citationist is Bob Craddock. Bob Craddock was unable to be here, so I am Bob Craddock. I will read the citation. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to stand here today to honor my friend and colleague, Professor Stephen Tooth, recipient of this year's Farouk El-Baz Award for Desert Research. As you know, this award recognizes outstanding contributions to our understanding of arid zone processes, and there is truly no one more deserving of that recognition than Stephen. For over 3 decades, he has reshaped how we see, study, and value the world's drylands, not as barren wastelands, but as dynamic, living systems filled with complexity, resilience, and beauty. Steve's scientific journey began in the deserts of Central Australia, where he completed his PhD under the supervision of Gerald Nanson at the University of Wollongong. His early work in these remote landscapes revealed something that has since become a hallmark of his career, a willingness to challenge accepted ideas when the evidence points in a new direction. His studies of floodouts and anabranching channels fundamentally redefined how we understand the interactions of flow, sediment, and vegetation in ephemeral river systems, once thought to be chaotic, but which Stephen showed are governed by subtle and elegant rules of form and process. Since then, Stephen has built an extraordinary research portfolio that now spans 5 continents, from the deserts of Australia and Southern Africa to South America, the Mediterranean, the American Southwest, and India. Along the way, he has described new alluvial river styles, documenting the dynamics of bedrock and mixed bedrock alluvial systems, and illuminated the geomorphology of wetlands in some of the planet's driest landscapes. His work on the Okavango Delta, that incredible wetland oasis in Botswana, has been particularly influential. Using optical luminescence dating and careful geomorphic reconstruction, Stephen and his collaborators have shown how this vast system responded to Holocene hydroclimatic shifts, revealing periods of greatly enhanced flow and major channel transformations. It's a study that has profound implications, not only for understanding the Quaternary history of Southern Africa, but for how we interpret the sensitivity of desert wetlands to climate change. Beyond his numerous publications, there are more than 100 of them, many now considered classics in our field, Stephen has become a global leader in dryland geomorphology. He co-founded the Wetlands and Drylands Research Network, uniting researchers from around the world to focus on fragile, underappreciated ecosystems that support both biodiversity and human livelihoods. His outreach work, from the conversation articles to classroom materials and art science collaborations, shows both a desire and a gift for communicating the relevance of geomorphology to broader audiences. His service to the geomorphology community has been equally outstanding as chair of the British Society for Geomorphology, as a dedicated reviewer and editor, and as a mentor to countless students and early career scientists. His leadership has helped shape our discipline into one that is not only more rigorous, but also more inclusive and globally connected. But Steve's impact goes beyond his scientific achievements. Those who've worked with him know his curiosity, humility, and generosity of spirit, all of which are coated with a wonderful sense of humor. He brings people together, across disciplines, across continents, and always with a genuine enthusiasm for discovery. Personally, he is one of my favorite field partners. Few people can describe the history of discovery about any particular region as well as Stephen can. I never fail to learn from him whenever we have a chance to work together. As a side note, no one can dig a hole or a trench faster than Stephen either. I think it's because he is always driven to find out what the answer as quickly as possible. Stephen represents the best of what geomorphology can be, a field science rooted in observation, enriched by creativity, and animated by curiosity about how Earth's landscapes work. His career has deepened our understanding of rivers that flow without rain, wetlands that thrive in deserts, and landscapes that remind us how resilient our planet can be. So it is my great honor and personal joy to congratulate Professor Stephen Tooth, recipient of the 2025 Farouk El-Baz Award for Desert Research. Stephen, thank you for inspiring all of us to look closer, think deeper, and appreciate the wonders of the world's drylands. So I invite Stephen Tooth to accept the award and respond to the citation.
So, thank you very much for that citation, Bob. It's always interesting to hear other people's opinions of your oeuvre. And of course, in this case, it's very flattering to hear. It makes it sound like I've done all these research activities by myself, which of course isn't the case at all. And I'll come on to that shortly. Now, I wanted to say a whole lot of thanks tonight, but I was told strictly to keep to under 5 minutes, and these are hard taskmasters, I know. So I've had to scrub out an awful lot, okay, but I'll do my best. So, in the limited time I have, first I should give my gratitude to Farouk El-Baz for providing the inspiration for this award that is named after him, and for the endowment all those years ago. And for the continued support of the Quaternary Geology and Geomorphology division of the GSA for administering the award. Second, I owe many, many thanks to my nominators and supporters, Gerald Nanson, of course, and Bob Craddock, and I believe Nick Lancaster and Martin Williams. There may be others too that have been supportive, and if so, I thank them. Third, I extend my appreciation to the awards committee, who I didn't know who they were until the slide came up earlier, but they were obviously persuaded by the nomination and support letters and other materials, and decided that I was deserving of being the 28th recipient of the award. I've looked down the list of past award winners, some of whom I've met, and a great many of whom I've looked up to and cited in my own work, and it is humbling to find myself at the end of that list. I should also say that I have been extremely fortunate throughout the vast majority of my academic journey, with good mentorship and serendipity playing a key role. The late Professor Ken Gregory at the University of Southampton took me under his wing when I was an undergraduate student in the early 90s, and gave me early research and publication experience. And he was also the person that encouraged me to write to Gerald Nanson in Wollongong about PhD research opportunities. This was in pre-email days, in fact pre-internet days, at least as we now know it. So in the early 90s, I got my father to type a letter to Gerald on a typewriter. I popped it in the post, and I waited for a reply by post without any real expectations. Several weeks later, a large packet arrived, postmarked Australia, and alongside several of Gerald's own reprints on the amazing desert rivers of the Channel Country, there was an enthusiastic letter offering me a PhD scholarship at the University of Wollongong. A few months later, I was down in the Southern Hemisphere, and an amazing 30-plus year career studying desert rivers started, a small part of which I summarised in my presentation earlier today. At the end of my PhD, it was Gerald who provided the funds to enable my attendance at a conference in Cape Town, South Africa, and it was there that I met Spike McCarthy. He'd heard of my work on Australian desert floodouts and was keen to explore similar features in South Africa, alongside numerous other possibilities. He encouraged me to apply for a postdoctoral position at the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg in the late 90s. Now, I'll be honest, I was initially hesitant. South Africa was a newly fledged democracy, and people were watching nervously to see how it would fare. But in the end I went, and I've never looked back. Like in Australia, the research opportunities were immense, and it was a very good social scene. It's where I met my American wife, Maggie, who has accompanied me on many research trips since, and alongside our son Hamish, indulges my constant chatter about landforms and landscapes on supposed family holidays, to drylands, as well as wetter regions. Maggie and Hamish and our wider family have been nothing but supportive of my research activities. Now, my appointment at Aberystwyth also partly came about as a result of a chance meeting, but I haven't got the time to explain that tonight. That will have to be a story for another day. But just to say, I've operated from a relatively stable platform there, if there's anything stable in academia, and I've been able to continue my desert research in many parts of the world, be it Australia, Africa, the Americas, or Asia. Long may it continue. I should also say, just to start closing, that I've been extremely fortunate with the vast majority of my academic collaborations. Over the years, I've co-authored journal papers, book chapters and outreach materials with numerous other people, just over 200 actually in the last count. And there are many other people across the research ecosystem who also deserve thanks. The funders and funding committees that enable the research trips, the field assistants and laboratory technicians, and the reviewers of my submitted papers. The latter often go unacknowledged, but here too I would say I've been fortunate in that the vast majority of reviews of my papers, let's say 85–90%, even if harsh, have generally been fair and generally been supportive, and if they haven't, they have at least made me think more deeply about the research issues at hand, and so have helped improve the final versions of my publications. Everyone plays their part in getting research findings into print. A few lucky people may eventually reap the rewards. Tonight, that lucky person is me. As I said in my presentation earlier today, the last year has been exceptionally challenging for me, both personally and professionally. I don't need to go into details here, but this award, again, as I said earlier, has really helped lift my spirits, so I thank you all.